My sister was born kind-hearted, while I was born a bad seed. When the extreme heatwave struck, we stayed indoors with plenty of hoarded supplies. She saw a crying 7 or 8-year-old boy begging for help, and decided to take him in, saying we had plenty of food. And one more kid wouldn't hurt. Premier tolder. This boy looks too mature for his age. Something might be wrong with him. It would be best to observe him first. She scolded me, calling me a heartless bad seed, and immediately let the person into the house. Non litat. She also convinced our mom to forcefully make me share a room with the kid. As a result, in the middle of the night, kid secretly climbed into my bed, and I was brutally assaulted. Yet, my sister told me to let it go and marry him. When I refused, they locked me on the open balcony under 60-degree heat. In a fit of pure rage, I set a fire and burned everyone alive, opening my eyes to see my perfectly unharmed sister. I smiled. This time, I will show them what a true bad seed is. Li Haoxiang, you did a great job hoarding all these supplies, even if it really stays hot for a month like the officials said. We won't have to worry anymore. The agony of being swallowed by the flames had yet to fade, and the voice of my sister, Li Haokui, rang in my ears. Xiong, go out and prepare some more. The more things we have, the more people I can help. I stared blankly at Li Haokui. I had clearly just burned to death with her. Seeing me stand still, she gave me a push. I'm talking to you. Did you hear me? The physical touch made me realize I had been reborn. Reborn to a time before any of the tragedies happened. This was exactly how it was in my past life, and my mother. I not only spent all my savings, but even when we had enough food, I went out to hoard another massive batch of supplies. In the end, the supplies I desperately gathered were given away to the neighbors by her within days. Seeing I still wasn't moving, she urged me again, hurry up and go. What are you spacing out for? I wiped the sweat from my forehead, licked my dry, cracked lips, walked to the fridge, grabbed an iced cola, and chugged it down. Only then did the phantom sensation of burning alive finally fade away. I then looked at my sister. Why don't we go together? Li Haokui, who was used to treating me like a pack mule, didn't expect me to ask her. She froze for a second, but quickly replied, it's scorching hot outside, people could die. Plus, it's so chaotic these past 2 days. I don't want to go. Besides, you have good stamina and more experience. Oh, so they knew it was chaotic? So they actually knew the heat outside could kill people. At this exact time in my previous life, the temperature had already soared to 60 degrees. Yet, they showed no sympathy, forcing me to go out and hoard more supplies. I smiled and looked at our mom. It's better to have an extra pair of hands. If she's afraid of the heat, she can wear sun protective clothing and use an umbrella. Or, Mom, you and I can go together. Of course, Mom didn't want to go either. She immediately looked at my sister. Quickly, since your sister asked, just go with her. I'm getting old. I can't handle this extreme heat. My sister had no choice but to follow me out with a long face. In my past life twice. I always thought it was because I wasn't good enough. It wasn't until I was on my deathbed that I understood. It was all the doing of my good sister. My sister is 3 years older than me, and she specialized in genetics. She told our mom that there was evidence proving was Reborn bad said, and even brought up many case studies she found. She claimed people like me were born devoid of empathy, smart, but utterly cold-blooded. If I wasn't strictly disciplined, I would end up killing someone. My mom believed her, and constantly kept her guard up against me. To me, my sister just said I had emotional impairment. and that I needed to listen to her and do more good deeds. It was exactly because of my sister's words that, even when I was tortured to the brink of death, there was no pity in my mother's eyes. Instead, she looked almost relieved. Thank God for opening his eyes and letting me live again. This time, I'll let them see what a real bad seed looks like. I said we were going out for supplies together, but that was just an excuse. Why should I be the only one suffering in this extreme heat? The moment we stepped out, the heatwave hit our faces, baking us so badly we wanted to instantly run back to the AC. I had to go out today because in just a few days, the temperature would skyrocket past 80 degrees. After leaving the building, I deliberately shook her off and headed straight to my destination. In my past life, trust him. I wasn't entirely stupid. With extreme weather, the ultra-high temperature warnings, and magnetic field anomalies, I had an ominous feeling that something huge was coming. So back when I first hoarded supplies, I stored the majority of them in the old, rundown basement of our building. I only kept a small portion of the supplies in our apartment. Anjali, in my past life, tell them. I was betrayed by them. Now, fully stocked with supplies, I didn't need to join the panic buying. Instead, I went and bought a baseball bat. Although its lethal force isn't as great as a dagger, is enough to intimidate people. For real self-defense, like fruit knives and daggers, I bought a few as backups. I also purchased several sets of hidden cameras. After putting everything I needed into my backpack, I finally headed to the basement. When I was hoarding in my past life, I realized the basement was even cooler than an air-conditioned room. Given the current temperature of over 60 degrees, the temperature in the basement is estimated to be no more than 30 degrees. When I was cleaning it out before, I found a large 3-meter deep inflatable swimming pool. I've always been frugal, and seeing it wasn't broken, I didn't throw it away. Looking at it now, it could perfectly serve as a water making up my mind. I started connecting hoses to store water. You have to know, by the 10th day of the extreme heat wave, water would become the biggest problem. After finishing all the preparations, I casually strolled back home. Compared to my sister, who had just returned and looked completely disheveled, my mom couldn't help but scold me, blaming me for abandoning my sister outside. I sneered, is she the older sister, or am I a grown adult, and she still loses track of me? I can only say she has no brains. My sister glared at me viciously, just as she was about to snap back. Both moms and my phones buzzed at the same time. Opening the homeowners group chat, the group admin was asking everyone to check and report the supplies they had at home. I knew the good show was about to begin. In my previous life, it was exactly at this moment that Mrs. thought exposed our entire household inventory to everyone. Over 20 bags of flour and rice, over 100 catties of potatoes and cabbages. The fridge is packed with all kinds of meat, plus instant noodles and other convenient foods. Our house had absolutely everything. Even if we didn't go out for 2 or 3 months, it would be more than enough for us to survive. Once the message was sent, the group chat exploded. Everyone was envious. My sister even generously announced that if anyone was short on supplies, they could just come to her. In a group chat of 500 people, everyone praised her for being beautiful and kind. My sister's generosity turned us into fat sheep in a den of wolves. Later, when supplies became scarce, our house became the very first target to be looted. But right now, my sister was collapsed on the sofa from the heat. Her phone, due to the extreme outdoor temperatures, had automatically shut down. So when the group admin pinged everyone just now, she was completely unaware. Since I hadn't stayed outside too long, My phone was working perfectly fine. She couldn't be bothered to talk to me, either, and just turned and walked into the bathroom. I'm dying of heat. I'm going to take a cold shower. I picked up my phone and directly copied my sister's exact move from my posting our entire household inventory to the group chat. My sister just happened to finish her shower. She turned on her phone and immediately saw my inventory list in the homeowners along with a screen full of holy *T. Awesome, and Unit 1507 is the goat praises. Her face instantly changed, and she slammed her phone fiercely onto the sofa, yelling loudly, "Li Heoxiang, is your brain filled with water? By exposing everything we have, aren't we just turning ourselves into walking targets? What are we gonna do when everyone comes asking us for stuff? What if they just break in and rob us?" These words sounded so familiar. In my past life, I like this. She just called me selfish, saying the heatwave would pass quickly, and asking what was the big deal about giving some stuff away. Even our mom sided with her. So, I simply mimicked the words she once said, and started to retort. "Siste, didn't you always teach me to be helpful, and not to lie? What's wrong with me telling the truth? We're all neighbors. This heatwave won't last long, it's not that scary. You also say, only people with dark minds think the worst of others. Could it be that you?" Her expression visibly stiffened. Rolling her eyes, she muttered, "I was just saying. It's okay to be kind, but you can't be this stupid." After saying that, she buried her head into the group chat, ignoring me completely. In no time, she took all the credit for hoarding the supplies entirely onto herself, immensely enjoying the flattery from the homeowners. But première que nous. The part she would enjoy even more was yet to come. Just 3 days later, the temperature skyrocketed from 60 degrees to 72 degrees. Many people in the group complained that even with the AC on, it wasn't cool at all. With the AC running, the air blowing out was just hot air. Sometimes the voltage was unstable, and the AC wouldn't even turn on. If you wanted to cool down, you could only take cold showers. I wasn't in a hurry to turn on the AC. I was waiting for nightfall, when they were both asleep, so I could install hidden cameras in the corners. Today was the day the real show would begin. Soon enough, people in the group started tagging my sister and me mum, saying they didn't have enough supplies, and asking for help. They said they were willing to pay with money. Before my sister could respond, I jumped in, imitating her past tone, and replied, "Why talk about money? A close neighbor is better than a distant relative. If you need anything, just come to our house. Everyone has hard times, juste comme mauvais. We have plenty." Once this message even more neighbors jumped out, saying they needed supplies. I agreed to absolutely all of them. When my sister saw the messages, she exploded on the spot. "Are you sick in the head? Giving things away for free? Do you think you're a bodhisattva? Sister, didn't you say yesterday that we need to be united? If we don't give it for free, should we sell it at a high price? Everyone is already suffering. Do you still want to make dirty money?" Right, as we were arguing, there was a knock on the front door. As soon as the door opened, the people outside all squeezed in. My sister was clearly unhappy, but when she saw a few handsome guys in the crowd, she immediately changed her face and went to help everyone a bag of rice, a bag of flour, and even handed out a lot of vegetables and fruits. After the crowd left, I did a quick inventory check. Our stock was directly cut in half. It was exactly like this in my past life. After all her tossing around, the food left at home was only enough for 10 days. When the temperature soared to 75 degrees, the front door was knocked on again. I knew the main character had arrived. Looking through, I saw that little boy standing at the door. He was crying and banging on the door, saying he hadn't eaten anything for days. His parents went out and never came back. And if no one took him in, he would die out there. At the time, I immediately recognized that this was not a real child, but a disguised dwarf. I instantly told my sister not to open the door, but she, while unlocking the door, mocked me in front of our mom. Mom, look at her. She's so cold-blooded. Anyone knocking on our door must be a neighbor. What if they really need help? That sentence not only stepped on me, but it made that dwarf hold a deep grudge against me, which led to him taking the chance to assault me. Right now, looking at the little boy outside the door, I turned and asked my sister, Sister, there's a kid outside who looks about 7 or 8. Should we open it? Open it. Let's see what's going on. As soon as the door opened, the little boy slipped right in. His name was Pang Xiaoshu. Premier à tous. He did look like a child, with child-sized hands and feet. And his head wasn't oversized like other dwarfs I've seen. Aside from his overly mature gaze, you really couldn't tell anything was off. Then, my sister immediately radiated a motherly aura, bringing him food and handing him an iced cola. I took the chance while she went to the bathroom to whisper to Xiaoshu, I can tell my sister really likes you. Don't worry, she will definitely let you stay. Sure enough, when my sister came out of the bathroom, she directly announced that we would adopt the dwarf, Anshushu. Already knowing my sister favored him, began to look at Li Heokui with a gaze that slowly turned perverse. The next scene to unfold would definitely be even more interesting. Just like in my previous life, when night fell, the whole family started discussing where Xiaoshu should sleep. This time, I spoke up first. How about letting Xiaoshu sleep with sister? You two can squeeze together. Our house is a small 3-bedroom apartment, small, 11 square meters, and it's piled high with junk, making it impossible for anyone to sleep there. Usually, my sister and I shared a room. When my sister heard what I said, she immediately frowned. How can we do that? Xiaoshu is still a boy after all. Sister, he is just a child. Don't overthink it. Besides, Xiaoshu likes you. He'd definitely be happy to sleep with you. Isn't that right, Xiaoshu? Mom, I like Sister Quiqui the most. She's beautiful and has a kind heart. My sister was so flattered she felt like she was instantly forgetting her previous concerns and agreed right away. That night, I intentionally stayed awake until 2 a.m. Strange noises started coming from my sister's room. Those noises made me completely understand that in my past life, when I cried for help, it wasn't that they didn't hear me. They just simply didn't care. But my sister was a bit different from me. Before long, her screams turned into ambiguous moans. Knowing the dwarf had succeeded, I could finally sleep peacefully. The next morning, I was woken up by my sisters screaming, Mom, and I came out of our room, only to see my sister running out with her clothes disheveled. Inues. She pointed at Xiaoshu and cried, Mom, he isn't a child at all. My mother's face changed drastically. Xiaoshu rushed out of the room, dropped to his knees, and started slapping himself while kowtowing and begging for mercy. Auntie, I was wrong. I'm not human. But with this hellish weather outside, if I didn't pretend to be a kid, you wouldn't have taken me in. I truly like Quiqui. I'm willing to take responsibility for what I've done. Hearing this, my sister cried even harder. Who wants you to take responsibility, Mom? Call the police. Put him in jail. Let's put this little beast away. The 3 of them all turned to look at me. You be asterisk TCH. What are you laughing at? My sister lunged at me in a rage. wanting to hit me, but I shoved her away. I laughed. Sister. Are you stupid? It's over 70 degrees outside. Do you think right calling the police will work? Besides, he already said he likes you. And he didn't do it on purpose. Don't you like him too? Otherwise, why did you let him in? Furthermore, when he was assaulting you last night, I didn't hear you screaming for help. It sounded more like you were enjoying it. These words made my sister's face turn bright red. She gritted her teeth and glared at me viciously. I turned my head and looked at my mom. If you ask me, just let them get married. That way, we get an extra pair of hands. This heatwave feels endless. Having a man in the house is a good thing. These were the exact words she used in my past life, when she forced me to marry Xiaoshu. In this life, I returned them to her. My sister immediately flew into a rage. Li Haoxiang, are you crazy? I'm a normal, fully abled woman, and you want me to marry this pig? I'm telling you, I'd rather die than. Before she could finish, I pulled out a dagger and pressed it against her neck. This marriage is happening. Mom, loving her precious daughter, saw me looking like a maniac, holding a knife to my sister, and immediately screamed, Li Haoxiang, what are you doing? She is your sister. Yes. She is my sister. But sud-ouest what? In my past life, the Smith. When I refused, they beat me half to death. Then, out of sheer cruelty, I was literally roasted alive, losing layers of skin to the scorching heat. While they sat in the air-conditioned room, eating watermelon and watching the show, I looked at Xiaoshu and slightly raised my chin, signaling him to the rope in the corner. Xiaoshu excitedly rushed over, and in a few swift moves, tied my sister up tightly. Mom, terrified of the knife in my hand, only dared to cry and beg me to let my sister go. I shot her a cold glance, and expressionlessly pushed my sister towards the balcony. I slid the glass door open and shoved her hard outside. You stay out here and cool down. Maybe you'll figure things out. She fell hard onto the burning hot tiles, screaming as she crawled toward the shade, cursing me non-stop. I closed the door, took some chilled watermelon from the fridge, and watched her while eating. But my mom still gathered the courage to approach. However, before her hand even touched, I stopped her with a sharp yell. Whoever opens this door, I will throw them out there too. Mom, that includes you. Mom's raised hand could only awkwardly and fearfully withdraw. Seeing that even Mom couldn't save her, Li Haokui immediately changed her tune and begged for mercy. I was wrong. I'll marry him, okay? I looked down at the time. Only 20 minutes, and she already couldn't take it past life or hour. My sister was dragged back inside like a dead dog, slumped on the floor, completely soaked in sweat, her face burning red. She muttered weakly, water. I need water. I'm dying of heat. Xiaoshu stared perversely at my sister, her eyes roaming over her sweaty, abandon. Unable to hold back his lust, brother-in-law, my sister is hot. Help her to the bathroom to take a cold shower. Mom tried to stop him, but I glared at her, and she didn't dare make a sound. She could only watch helplessly as my sister was dragged into the bathroom by Xiaoshu. After this whole ordeal, my sister finally became obedient. But I knew she wouldn't just let this go. Since the deed was already done, I would leave the rest of the mess for them to clean up themselves. That evening, after dinner, I put on all my heat protection gear, made an excuse about looking for supplies, and left the house, as I expected. The basement was still incredibly cool. As soon as I stepped in, the sweltering heat vanished. Everything was ready. For the rest of the time, I just needed to sit back and enjoy the show. Turning on the security cameras, I saw my sister no longer acting restrained. along with my mom. They opened the fridge and started chugging cold drinks. Then, my sister seemed to suddenly remember something. She rushed over and locked the front door multiple times. My mom saw this and exclaimed in surprise, "Why are you locking the door? What if your sister comes back? Did you forget what she did to me? A bad seed like her. Do you really want to let her come back and bother us?" My mom froze and didn't say a word, essentially silently agreeing to this outcome. I wasn't surprised at all. It didn't matter. In my past life, are you colors? I didn't go back that night, and they never came looking for me. It wasn't until the afternoon of the third day, when the water in the house was cut off, that my mom finally sent a message. "Xiang Xiang, are you okay? Why haven't you come back yet? The house is out of water. Can you get some water and bring it back?" My mom stared intensely at her phone. Her expression complicated. My sister sneered. "Why do you care about her? She's probably already dead out there with this heat and no water. There's no way she could survive." I didn't reply to the message. I just sipped my iced cola, enjoyed the AC, ate hot pot, and watched the scenes on my phone. Actually, I really wanted to show them how comfortable I was right now. But the time wasn't right yet. Another 2 days passed. My mom and the others finally couldn't hold on anymore. The only water left in the house was a little bit in the fish tank. The food had also hit the bottom. My sister finally couldn't take it and gave me a call. She didn't expect me to pick up instantly. The moment she heard my voice, her first sentence was filled with shock. "Li Heoxiang, you're actually still alive." I took a huge gulp of iced cola and gave a hum. What else? Can a dead person answer the phone, having been without water for so long? Hearing the sound of me swallowing, she immediately asked, "Where are you? Are you drinking water? Come back quickly. The water is cut off here. We're about to die of thirst." "I'm not drinking water. I'm drinking iced cola. As for going home, it's over 70 degrees outside right now. I die from the heat if I go out." My sister clearly ignored the second half of my sentence. Gritting her teeth, she asked, "Where did you get cola?" "Première gîte. That day you said you were going out for supplies. You actually went to hide somewhere yourself, didn't you?" I laughed and replied, "Bingo. Too bad there's no prize. Oh, by the way, I don't just have cola here. I also have enough water to last me a month." On the other end of the phone, Sister Li Heokui's breathing suddenly became heavy, followed by a scream of utter disbelief, and the sound of something shattering on the floor. "Ised Kola? Liao Xiong, where the hell are you?" Her voice was completely distorted by excitement and intense thirst. I calmly hung up the phone and blocked her number. I knew this wouldn't be our last contact. The real storm, along with the complete depletion of their water resources, was fast approaching. Just as I expected, the peace only lasted for 3 more days. On the surveillance footage, my mother and sister were having a fierce fight over the last bit of murky fish tank water. The once picture-perfect scene of filial piety and motherly love was completely gone. It was replaced by hysterical shoving and vicious cursing. Meanwhile, Xiaoshu cowered in the corner, his eyes sweeping over both of them like a venomous snake, clearly weighing his options. A moment later, the exhausted mother seemed to suddenly realize something. "With this hellish weather, why don't we go down to that old basement downstairs to cool off?" I stared at the phone screen and gave a wicked smile. I knew the final moment had arrived earlier than expected. I quickly double-checked all my defensive measures. The thick security door, the concealed ventilation vents, and the self-made alarm system. But against a group of lunatics driven by sheer desperation, How long these things could hold out was an unknown variable. Outside, I began to hear noisy footsteps and shouting. Getting closer and closer, I gripped the stun baton tightly in my hand. My palms sweating cold sweat. On the screen, Mom's face, heavily distorted by weakness and greed, suddenly appeared. She was wiping her sweat, while muttering, "Our basement should at least be a little cooler than upstairs. Maybe there are even some leftover things inside." Her voice abruptly stopped. She bumped straight into my reinforced metal door that looked entirely out of place in this rundown environment. The group of them instantly froze in their tracks. This door is newly installed. There must be someone inside. My sister grew excited. She threw herself at the door, slapping the metal panel with both hands. Her voice, sharp from rapid, desperate breathing, rang out. "Xiang Xiang, I knew you must be hiding in here." Mom stood behind her. The weakness on her face was entirely replaced by a greedy glare. She stepped forward, pulled my sister aside, and spoke to the door, softening her tone. Though the sheer desperation in her eyes couldn't be hidden. "Xiang Xiang, Mom knows you're in there. Let us come in and hide for a bit." "Okay," seeing me make no sound. My sister's patience ran out first. She raised her foot and kicked the door hard. The metal door let out a harsh, clanging sound, but didn't budge an inch. "Liao Xiang, if you don't open this door, I'm going to tell everyone in the building that you have supplies in here. I'll let them all come and rob you. Xiang Xiang, we're only doing this for your own good. You, a single girl, hoarding so much stuff, will eventually become a target. It's definitely safer with more of us around." Xiaoshu didn't say a word, but the glint in his small, beady eyes was far more chilling than my sister's threats. Over. Their extremely weakened bodies simply couldn't endure this kind of exertion. A few minutes later, their energy seemed to have completely drained. The attack stopped, leaving only the sound of their heavy, abnormal panting. Right at that moment, Xiaoshu, who had been observing in silence, suddenly moved. He viciously lunged with a knife, stabbing it brutally into the lower back of my mother, who was leaning against the door panting. Mom let out a short, blood-curdling scream. She turned her head in utter disbelief before her body slid limply to the ground. Li Heokui, horrified by this sudden screamed. But her survival instinct made her react swiftly. The moment Xiaoshu lunged at her with the knife, she dodged to the side, grabbed his wrist, and they began wrestling. Hysterical cursing and sharp, grotesque shrieks filled the space outside my door. It lasted for less than a minute, following a dull thud. Everything suddenly went dead silent. "Xiang Xiang, I've taken care of the outsider who wanted to steal your things. Can you open the door for your sister now?" Through the security camera, I watched Li Heokui standing there. She was holding the bloody knife, her face and body splattered with blood. À her feet lay the lifeless bodies of Xiaoshu and our mother. Mother betrayed me. Xiaoshu tried to hoard me for himself, and my sister murdered them right outside my door. These constant, twisting betrayals and plots brought me no thrill of victory. They only left me with bone-chilling coldness and a sense of absurdity. I did not open the door. My sister very longtemps. From calm pleading to crying and cursing, until she eventually slid down against the wall, whimpering softly like a little girl. "Xiang Xiang, please open the door." It's just the two of us, sisters left in this world. Aren't we each other's only family now? Her voice grew weaker and weaker, until finally, there was no sound at all. I didn't bother to clean up the mess outside. I just retreated deeper into the basement and locked that heavy metal door tight once again. Everything outside no longer had anything to do with me. I sat down in my comfortable chair and opened a can of yellow peaches. The sweet juice slid down my throat. Premier one. I lived to the very end, using the exact methods they taught me. But oui. Does this sweetness, that used to be my favorite, now taste like nothing but endless, boundless bitterness and emptiness? Outside the window, that scorching sun that could melt human flesh still hangs high in the sky. This mad, mad world remains unchanged.